Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Nimra Noreen, lecturer in Anatomy Department at Liaquat College of Medicine and Dentistry. Welcome to this short demonstration on the anatomical landmarks of the norma occipitalis, that is also known as the posterior view of the skull. This is very essential topic for understanding the cranial anatomy and its clinical implication. So let's begin by reviewing the different views or normas of the skull. Whenever you are holding the skull in your hand, you are having different views like norma frontalis, that is also called an anterior view, the front view of the skull. Then we have a norma lateralis, that is lateral view, the side view of the skull. Then we have a norma basalis, that is the inferior view, the base of the skull when view from the globe. Then we have a norma verticalis, that is a superior view, the top view of the skull. Then we have a norma occipitalis, posterior view, the posterior view of the skull. Each view of the skull gives a unique insights in the structure, including bones, sutures, and attachment points of muscles. In today's session, we will focus on the norma occipitalis or the posterior view, that exploring its detailed anatomy and clinical relevance. Now moving forward to the bones of this view, here we have two posterior part of a parietal bone superiorly, and here is anterior part of a parietal bone. This is the frontal bone, and secondly in this view we can see the mastoid part of the temporal bone, and here you can see the squamous part of the temporal bone, and there is also a occipital bone. Squamous part of the occipital bone is present between them. The occipital bone is divided into two parts, and you can see in this picture. This is the parietal bone superiorly, and here you can see the mastoid part of the temporal bone, and in between there is a squamous part of the temporal occipital bone. Occipital bone is further divided into the two parts, the upper squamous part and the lower basilar part. The upper squamous part is developed from the membranous ossification, and the lower occipital part, that is the basilar part of the occipital bone, is ossified by the cartilaginous ossification, as you can see in this picture. Later on, these bones fuse completely to form a single occipital bone, but in few cases, this may not be fused to form a single occipital bone. Instead, the squamous part remains as a separate bone called the interparietal bone, as you can see here. It's physically it won't make any difference, but it is important to know to differentiate it from a fracture. So now moving forward to the sutures. Here you can see these bones. So what is suture? These bones are connected to each other through a joint that is known as a suture. So here suture appreciated in these views are the posterior part of the sagittal suture. Here you can appreciate here, this is the posterior part of the sagittal suture, this is the anterior part of sagittal suture, this is the coronal suture. So posterior part, this suture is also known as a interparietal suture. This suture is the serrated interlocking joint connecting between the two paired parietal bones in the midline of the skull. Then we have a lambdoid suture. This is the lambdoid suture. It's a fibrous joint in the skull that connect the occipital bone to the parietal bone. Along the sagittal suture and the lambdoid, here you can see also appreciate the sagittal suture, posterior part of the sagittal suture and the lambdoid suture. Now, along the sagittal suture and the lambdoid suture, sometimes we may appreciate a small individual bone which are irregular and star-like bones. These bones are known as the supernumerary bones. They get ossified from their own ossification. And these bones are just add members to individual. It does not make any physiological difference. This is the supernumerary bones. Then moving forward to the other sutures, laterally we can see two more sutures where the occipital bone meet with the mastoid part of the temporal bone is known as the occipitomastoid suture. As you can see here, occipitomastoid suture. Then we have similarly the mastoid part of the temporal bone when meet with the parietal bone to form a parieto-mastoid suture. You can see here the parieto-mastoid suture. The point where these two sutures are meet are known as the osteon, as you can see there. In this, you can see here is the meeting point of the two sutures known as the osteons, and you can appreciate in this picture as well. Now let's find the prominent features in this view. The first prominent feature in this view is the external occipital protuberance. As you can see here, this is the external occipital protuberance. What is this? It is a midline projection of the occipital bone which forms the inferior aspect of the norma occipitalis, and the tip of the external occipital protuberance is considered as a landmark of the skull known as the anion. You can see this is the most prominent part of the external occipital protuberance, that is called anion. You can see I also appreciate the external occipital protuberance. The most prominent part is anion. Now moving forward to the another landmark on the each side of the external occipital protuberance, you can see the arching like this. This is the arching on the both side, that is termed as the superior knuckle line. This is the arching from the external occipital protuberance, that is called the superior knuckle lines. On the each side of the external occipital protuberance, there are the arching lines which are termed as the superior knuckle lines. As you can see here, the knuckle lines, superior knuckle lines, and the external occipital protuberance demarcate the head from the neck region. Superior knuckle lines may find faint arches ridges, which are termed as highest knuckle lines. Highest knuckle lines are present above the 1 cm above the superior knuckle lines, which are not seen in all skull, in very few may found. And the mastoid bone is identified by a small tiny foramen which is called as a mastoid foramen, and that is present over the mastoid process near the occipitomastoid suture. Now you can really appreciate that this is the mastoid foramen. This is the mastoid foramen. Here you can see in this picture, this is the mastoid foramen. Emissary vein and the meningeal artery, emissary vein and the meningeal branch of occipital artery passes through this mastoid foramen. Now moving forward to their muscle attachment. The trapezius muscle is attached on the superior knuckle line, and the occipitalis muscle is attached on superior to the knuckle line, and the semispinalis capitis and the spinalis capitis are attached to both inferior and superior knuckle lines. As you can see, the posterior skull serves as a number of anchors over several muscles responsible for the head and the neck movement. These muscles also play a crucial role in maintaining a posture. So what's their clinical significance? Understanding the norma occipitalis is not just about anatomy, but its clinical importance. For instance, the cervical muscles that attach to the occipital bone, like the trapezius, can be involved in the muscle spasm. This spasm can lead to the vascular compression, often causing tension, headache, or neck pain. So this is all about the norma occipitalis. Thank you for joining me in this brief and informative journey into the anatomy of the norma occipitalis and help you appreciate the intricate relationship between bone, landmark, muscle attachment and their clinical implications. So please stay tuned for more anatomy demonstration from Liaquat College of Medicine and Dentistry, and feel free to leave your questions or suggestions in the comments box. See you next time. Thank you.